Welcome back. This past week, we heard news of the death of Gambian teenage goalkeeper Fatim Jawara. She was just 19 years old and died trying to reach Europe by sea like hundreds of others. Fatim had a dream of playing for a major European club, whatever the risks. She never made her dream and never even entered Europe. Sadly, she died at sea when the boat she was in sunk late last week when hit by a sudden storm during the crossing from Libya to Italy. Family had tried to compel her to stay back home, even when she began the journey from Gambia to Libya. A friend said her family called her while she was in the desert, begging her to abandon the journey, but she insisted she wanted to go on and follow her destiny. Her story is like many others who tried to make the treacherous journey by sea to Europe, despite warnings of how dangerous it is. Last week alone, the UN says at least 240 people died at sea in 2 days. How many more do we have to lose before we realize how valuable our lives are?
The bodies of dead migrants recovered at sea. Many times they are swallowed up by the sea and washed up ashore days later. You will think anyone who has seen footage of bodies recovered at sea would rethink taking a risk by going by boat to Europe. But desperation makes people blind to the risks. The UN has confirmed the death of 240 migrants at sea in just 2 days. They drowned off the coast of Libya. The UN believes the accident was due to an unintended consequence of European efforts to stop people smugglers and to train Libyan coast guards. The International Organization for Migration says the latest death meant 4,220 lives had been lost in the Mediterranean so far this year, compared with 3,777 in the whole of 2015. Last month, the UN said more migrants have already died this year than last year.
And so they deliberately send them out.
The death toll this year among refugees and migrants is already the highest ever recorded. With 2 months of 2016 still to go, at least 3,740 lives are reported lost, and we might see this figure rise in the next few days. If you consider that last year there was 1 million people crossing the Mediterranean, and the number of deaths is about the same as this year, when 3 times less people have crossed, then you could say that the death rate has increased.
Since the European Union-Turkey deal in March to close down pathway to Greece, the Libya to Italy route across the central Mediterranean has become the main route. According to the UN, 1 in 47 migrant or refugees attempting the voyage between Libya and Italy dies. It's not all the time migrants are lucky enough to be rescued. Rescue ships parade the waters, but sometimes are not able to answer distress calls quickly enough. Many times people smugglers are hiding from authorities because they do not want to be caught, risking the lives of those on the small boat, suffering under the weight of being overcrowded. Europe's leaders are asking African countries to do more to prevent more people making this journey. But leaders are preoccupied with consolidating political power than eradicating poverty and stopping wars. In the last 3 years, Europe has become a mecca of some sort for migrants, many of whom will do anything to get there or die trying. Rescue workers have only been able to recover 21 bodies.
Thousands of Russians have been fighting in Syria in anti-government ranks, according to Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev. Last year, Moscow launched an air campaign to hit targets of militants who have waged a war against Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. There are also numerous jihadists from Russia who fill the ranks of anti-government forces. Speaking to Israeli media ahead of his visit next week, Mr. Medvedev said thousands of Russian citizens are taking part in fighting for the Islamic State and other terrorist groups in Syria, as in some other countries in the region. Moscow is now fighting Islamic State and other militant groups in Syria that the Kremlin says pose a threat to the security of Russia and the world. The Kremlin has justified its campaign of airstrikes in Syria by saying its main objective was to crush Islamic State. Medvedev reiterated that Syrian people should decide their political future and system of the country themselves. According to official data, more than 90% of Russians heading towards the Middle East to fight left the country after mid-2013. About 1,000 Kurds and pro-Kurdish supporters on Saturday marched to the Turkish embassy in Athens, chanting slogans against the Turkish president and against the detention of Kurdish leaders in Turkey.
We are here to protest Turkish government because they take Salahuddin Demirtas, the leader of Hadapi party, in prison. For that, we are all Kurdish in Greece. We are here to protest that. We don't want that. We don't freedom. We want freedom for Salahuddin Demirtas.
The leaders of Turkey's pro-Kurdish opposition People's Democratic Party were jailed pending trial on Friday as part of a terrorism investigation, drawing condemnation in the West of a crackdown on dissent under Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan. In Athens, demonstrators unfurled large Kurdish flags and held up placards depicting HDP co-leaders. Police in riot gear blocked the demonstrators, who danced and chanted by the police vans from reaching the embassy. On Saturday, Turkish authorities ordered the formal arrest of 9 staff members of a leading opposition newspaper and detained more pro-Kurdish officials. More than 110,000 officials, including judges, teachers, police and civil servants, have been detained or suspended following the failed coup in July. As millions around the world anticipate the U.S. presidential election on November 8th, Americans themselves have become discontented and stressed about the anticipation. Many citizens say the election is ugly and frightening.
I don't like it at all, actually. I think it's gotten very ugly, very mean-spirited. It's not about the issues.
The election this year, I have very mixed feelings because my family is very Democratic, but I don't particularly agree with what Hillary is going for. She kind of reminds me of a scary human being. I'm kind of frightened by her.
A recent survey by American Psychological Association shows that 52% of the Americans are stressed about the 2016 presidential election. Experts say the stress has both psychological and physical impacts on people's lives. Many Americans want the election to be over as soon as possible. Meanwhile, in nearby Mexico, people are more averse by the day to Donald Trump getting elected. This is all because of his irritating comments about Latin American people, Mexicans in particular. One local resident said Donald Trump does not know how to respect others and does not have a leader's glamour. The Mexican people will take as abusive Trump's proposal to fend off what he describes as the illegals with a border wall of separation between Mexico and the United States. That's the program this week. I'm glad you could join us. Share with us your thoughts on @diplomatic_chan or @CTV_Amhara_Ubani. I am Amarachi Ubani. I'll see you next time.